Hello, everybody, and welcome to Never Mind the Buy Box. Just give us a like, a share. Let us know if you can see and hear us okay. I know Jay's joined us on YouTube. I'm joined with Jonny today. How are you doing, Jonny?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Back in England now. I think it's my first Never Mind the Buy Box while being back in England.
Of 2023.
Yeah, of 2023. So, yeah, but I'm off again to Mexico City, as you know, on the 3rd of May. So not bad for long. So yeah, if anyone is in Mexico City in the month of May, then please feel free to message me, and we can grab a beer or talk Amazon. So that's a little invitation at the start. If you're around in Mexico City, give me a shout. I know there's a few sellers there already, so try and get something going. It's a sort of Amazon sort of hub, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a hub of Amazon sales, isn't it? Yeah, definitely Mexico. A lot of like-minded individuals as well, isn't there, in Mexico City?
Yeah. So I mean, like Tom Parkinson, I think Gavin's there. I think there's a few others I've seen on Tom's videos of Amazon sellers. So it'd be cool. Yeah. So I just put this up. What's that,
Yeah.
Mister? You in Mexico? This is not Mexico. This is Hertfordshire.
Hertfordshire.
But it's it is a little bit sunny. But no, I'm off to Mexico City. Yeah, and on the 3rd of May, I'm going to go for probably like 3 months. Not sure if I'm in Mexico for the whole time, but I'm going to come back end of July to the UK. Then do a bit of Euro sort of traveling while it's nice in the summer. But Mexico City, and then maybe one of the islands or something like Caracas, maybe Colombia. I'm not sure yet. It's a little bit wild after Mexico. We'll see what happens. I don't know yet.
Oh, that's mad. No, it sounds interesting travel plans. I have no travel plans at the moment, so I'm very boring. My travel plans is like to the warehouse and back at the moment.
Yeah, you have a nice dog to look after, so it makes it a bit different. You can sort of take advantage of the UK countryside and all that. And well, for me, I haven't got a residence, I haven't got a home here, so I'm just sort of, my parents live in Portugal, so I just come back to their house and chill for a bit, house sit, and I'll come back. But yeah, it's an exciting life. We've talked about this before, haven't we? About how to leverage your business, get your business up there to be able to do these sort of trips. And if you get your spend to a high enough amount, then cash back will pay for the majority of that. So it's a nice business, and that's why we're all here, I guess, is to have nice holidays and to grow the Amazon business, get that spend up, keep the profit up.
Yeah,
but mainly spend.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So how's business on your front? I know a lot of people the last few weeks were saying about slow sales in April. You had a very good February and March, or I had a terrible February and March. I had a very good January where you had a bad January. So are things picking up for you again?
You've had a good April, because we've had a pretty bad April. It seemed, I don't know how other people found it. Let us know in the comments. It seemed we started really strong, and then Easter was quite early this year. So Easter, well, it was early, but Easter was the start of April. Came in, and the sales just kind of fell. And that was expected, because obviously it's Easter. People are thinking about holidays. They're not thinking about Amazons so much. But they haven't seemed to really come back. We've had a few good days, but overall it's been quite slow. I noticed there's a lot of discounting and price tanking on a lot of lines at the moment. It seems to be really that people are going really aggressive on the pricing, which I think is partly due to the slowdown at Easter. People get a bit scared, a bit panicky. They go, I've not sold much for the past 2 weeks, and then people get aggressive, and then other people copy them, and then you end up with a bit of a race to the bottom at this time of year.
Yeah, that's right. We realized we made a bit of a mistake. Well, I realized I made a bit of a mistake. Our repricer channel max. So we have a 10K plan. and we had about 13,000 SKUs on there. So found out about 3,000 for the last few weeks were just not repricing. So had that error of like
a lot of SKUs. That is a lot of SKUs. I thought I had a lot of SKUs at like 6,000 or 7,000, but 13,000 is a lot.
Yeah, we deleted a bunch as well. But yeah, I spoke to them yesterday, and they have a setting on Channel Max which is pretty cool, where they'll only price you based off your active SKUs, so they won't reprice your inactive ones. So I think active SKUs, it went down to about 7,000, 7,500. Again, we have a lot of merchant fulfilled, and a lot of stuff we just don't keep in stock as much because they're rare to have. But yeah, that's picked up our sales quite a lot today. So I think we're on 1 o'clock. We're on 3,000 today. So it's pretty good. Pretty good. Yeah, I think an interesting thing I've been doing in my business as well, and I know people can't do this as much, but I've been repricing based off our buy box percentage more now. So I've been incorporating more algorithms based off buy box percentage. Maybe 3-4 months ago, Amazon released the buy box percentage where you can get it through the API. Never had that before. So a lot of repricers probably haven't built that in yet, where you can obviously reprice of your buy box percentage, which is really one of the biggest factors that you should be repricing off, right? Because if your buy box percentage is null or zero or a very low number, then you're not winning the buy box enough, and then you're not you're not selling enough of that SKU. You're not priced competitively because someone else is winning that buy box. So I've incorporated a bunch of algorithms into my business yesterday to get more aggressive if we haven't won the buy box, and change the repricing rules, and maybe do some undercutting a little bit if you haven't won it at all, right? Because if you haven't won the buy box and you've had that listing for, say, 2 months, right? So this is sort of talk about my rules I've set up. So I've got this listing. It's been 2 months in my warehouse, never won the buy box. That product might have sold on another listing, by the way, but that particular SKU, I've never won the buy box. So what I'm going to do is, you go aggressive, right? You need to lower your mins. You're going to maybe potentially go aggressive, undercut by 1 penny. Well, you want to raise those prices, by the way. So if you've got undercut, and then go up with like sleep modes. So we'll be incorporating a lot of that. And again, it's too early to tell, but so far our sales have been pretty good this morning. So we're looking at a record day in April. Of course, we've gone more aggressive, but again, we've had dead SKUs that weren't selling. So it's working quite well. So someone just said exactly this. Is this something you can configure in Channel Max? Unfortunately not. Again, you can programmatically send in mins and maxes to most repricing software. So if we were ever to build a repricing software, which something we have thought about, Matt, it's something we want to get right, but it's something that maybe will come to B-Stock soon. When it comes, because I've always had a fascination about, but I don't think you can actually configure that in Channel Max, because I'm not sure if buy box percentage is one of the settings, but there is a custom code option in Channel Max where you might be able to custom code it, but you'd have to look if they can actually pull in the buy box percentage now to their software. But it makes complete sense to me, and I really made an effort to for the last few days to incorporate that and see how it goes. So we can ask these few more questions, but we can eventually we'll get into what we're going to get into today. But Jessica,
I know we go back to Hayden's. Oh yeah, go on with the Jess's one. So what times are good to put reprices into sleep mode? I don't know about you, but I have mine set from 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. It doesn't go into sleep mode. I'm not sure what you remember, Stephen. Mine just increases the price to put us out of the buy box. It doesn't actually stop repricing.
So what we do is, I believe we up our mins. So we increase our minimum repricer, and we increase our price a little bit by about 9.99%, I think. And we increase our maxes by about 9.99%. And we do it, I'm pretty sure we do that every 2 hours for about 15 to 30 minutes, something like that. So every 2 hours, we're increasing the price of that listing, potentially when we're not winning the buy box, you don't want to. When we win the buy box, we try and keep that price as it is, because I don't want to lose that buy box. So I'm going to keep that price. But if you're not in the buy box, I would recommend increasing it every 2-3 hours for 15 to 30 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, because it takes sometimes a repricer 15 minutes to change, and actually to so I think it's 15 minutes for the API to actually change it all. Obviously, a repricer can react within 2 minutes to that price change, but then it's going to take another 10, 12, 13 minutes for Amazon to actually change that price on Amazon. So 15 minutes is quite short to sleep for that amount of time, I think, to get the full effect. So maybe recommend 30 minutes every 3 hours when you're not winning the buy box to increase your price by on FBA. I think we do about 4 or 5% every 2 hours, and then at night we do it 9.99%. So what I'm trying to do is increase the price by a little bit, right, by like 4 or 5%, because a lot of other prices have matched FBA. So if you're the only other seller, there's 2 FBA sellers, and you increase your price by 4.5%, eventually you hope that they will match your price, right? If that makes sense. Yeah. So you increase by 4 or 5%, and then the other FBA sellers will match that potentially as well. So small increments, because if it's too far, it might be out of their range. If it's closer, the repricer might react to it better. So you have more probability doing small increments than increasing by 20%, because that doesn't make sense. Increase a very small percentage.
I think I should elaborate for anyone who doesn't know for what this is. So a lot of people don't realize one of the main benefits of a repricer is not just to get you into the buy box, but it's also to take you out of the buy box. So how the buy box works is, generally speaking, Amazon's algorithm will share the buy box with a number of sellers. If like there's 5 of you with a similar price point, it will give you a share of the buy box, usually, as long as you've got comparable shipping methods and you've not got any account health issues. The important thing to note, though, is that Amazon might allocate your share of the buy box between 3 in the morning and 6 a.m. Now, that's no good for you, because how many people are online in the UK between 3 and 6 a.m. buying stuff on Amazon? 1 or 2, maybe very few people. So the benefit of a repricer, what it does is it actively pushes your prices up overnight to take you out of the buy box, so that you're not wasting your buy box share overnight, and then it will be more aggressive in the daytime to keep you in the buy box when people are actually buying. So that's, I think, one of the main advantages of reprices that's often overlooked is the taking you out of the buy box when you don't want to be in the buy box.
So you think Amazon will punish you for having too high of a buy box percentage? Is that essential?
I don't think they will punish you, but what the thing is you want your buy box percentage. If they're going to allocate you a percentage of the buy box, you want to make sure that your buy box percentage is at a time when customers are buying. You don't want your buy box percentage to be, because let's say if you don't reprice your products, let's say there's 5 people not using reprices, let's say they're all based at £10, for example. Amazon will then share that buy box between the 5 people. I say everything is equal, so they're all using FBA. The account health is all equal. It will probably give everybody an equal share of the buy box. Obviously, of course, they give themselves more, but let's say there's 5 third-party sellers. What it will do is you want to make sure that your share of the buy box is not at a time when customers aren't buying. So you want to make sure that your buy box share is, let's say, not necessarily at the peak time, but in a time when people are buying. So you can then basically put your price up. So you take yourself out of the buy box and then put yourself back in the buy box when customers are purchasing.
That's very good. Yep. So you want to raise your prices, not potentially through peak times.
Never raise
everything is equal.
Yeah. And also Amazon likes big drops as well. That's one of the things the algorithm likes. So again, another strategy of doing this, actually, by lowering your price, increasing it significantly and lowering it significantly, it actually is going to give you statistically more chance of getting in the buy box, because your price is seen as a big discount, and Amazon likes discount.
Yeah, I've noticed that. You drop the price a little bit. Sometimes I've noticed that when you drop the price to what they see as a competitive price. So, for example, but that could also just be the customer, right? The customer thinking that price is lower, so I'm going to buy that instead. if that makes sense. I'm not sure if that's all algorithmic based, but could be more customer based opinions, as in if the product is £10, you drop it to £7, that's now perceived as a cheaper product, and then the sales rank will obviously get better. So that obviously comes into play as well. There's a lot of, as a comment you said, there's a lot of intricacies necessary, but not easily done in current reprices as well. A lot of manual intervention, at least not in the ones I've used. So yeah, a lot of the reprices, it's hard to manipulate the mins and maxes, and that's where the majority of the repricing happens. And they don't take into consideration your own data as much. Like I said, the buy box percentage and sales ranks and different things you might reprice based off whatever metric you can really think of, right? Of course, sales rank, buy box percentage, page views. It could really create your own sort of algorithm. Most of the time, you don't know what's going on behind their sort of closed doors on their algorithm. So I think unless you maybe pay for like Seller Snap, which is extremely expensive, you won't be able to get those sort of really custom reprices. So sometimes you've got to build your own. But again, that's again my idea for a reprice. If I did, I know that we're building inventory management, so some sort of incorporation where you can incorporate sales rank, buy box percentage, page views, and create your own sort of custom algorithm to manipulate the mins and max is what I think a lot of people are looking for at a price point which isn't $800 a month, which I think Seller Snap is. I believe Seller Snap's 800. No, I know Ahmed paid something crazy for a repricer. I don't know if he's listening, but if you know any reprices which are crazy money, then put in the comments. But I think it's a lot. Yeah.
That seems an awful lot of money. I think anything more than £100 seems excessive. And I think as well, when we looked into these and we broke them down, a lot of them were, at the end of the day, they did the same function. Now, obviously they have certain rules and things, but at the end of the day, we couldn't see where $800 a month value was being achieved over a much more basic repricer. At the end of the day, they can only work as fast as the Amazon API can reprice. They can be intelligent in certain areas, but they're never going to be able to be, like they said, the person said, manual adjustments. They're never going to be able to spot trends, things like that. Spot when something's going to become obsolete or when it's expiring. Unless there's a very, very advanced system, I can't see where that $800 or pounds a month of value actually comes from in a repricer.
Yeah, so I think, as I mentioned, it's the custom settings. So be able to create a custom rule based off sales rank, buy box percentage, and all these different metrics that you might think of. So you can create a custom rule of that. And the second thing is just having trust in their algorithm, if that makes sense. You have to put a lot of trust in these companies who are charging this amount, that their algorithm is good, and a lot of it could be placebo, so it's quite hard to put your trust into a company that charges that amount. And then on the other hand, they could just reprice it like that because they want to come across as the premium repricer, and that's also just a pricing tactic, right? Just to reel people in because people want premium. They just put their price point as a strategy because it could just be a standard algorithm that, again, is very custom to a seller. So I would never recommend paying that much money for a repricer. It's at the end of the day, if you're doing FBA, the main things are how quickly can you match the FBA price. So how quick does your repricer react? So again, it should be using a queue service for notifications API, and then there's no delay in their schedule. So they're always pulling the latest prices continuously through the notifications API. So that's number one thing. That's the most important thing, is it's a quick repricer. So always ask your repricer service, are they using the SQS service, and is it real-time repricing? Like if they're still using the seller API to do repricing, then that could be wrong. What Channel Max does is they get you to put your own. So the reason Channel Max is a bit cheaper, they get you to put your own SQS queue service key key in to get the real-time repricing. So that's why they can be a little bit cheaper, and that's why I always recommend Channel Max. I think they're the best one for the price. I know Seller Toolkit, apparently, according to Norm, said they're real-time as well. But that's, again, not to be a dick, but that's based off his word. I know Channel Max is tested, so I've done that. So those are the most important things. But another thing as well to add on to SellerSnap's pricing point is an American software, and to be frank, everything in America is just ridiculously bloated in tech. So I would try and go British software. I mean, Sellerboard's pretty good, but I think it could be European, actually, Sellerboard. Go for English, European software. Don't go for American software. I know if you're American and listening, I'm sorry, but everything in America is extremely expensive. So if you can get UK software at a cheaper price point that supports America, it's probably your best play.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's marketing, though, isn't it? I think a lot of these American companies spend so much on marketing that they have to charge this much money because they're everywhere and they're spending millions of dollars a year on adverts.
Yeah, I mean, if you have you're paying 6 figures for a sales and marketing team. Do you know how much firefighters get paid in California?
No.
Have a guess.
I wouldn't guess it's quite a lot. So 100,000 a year.
It's a bit more, 250,000 a year.
Wow.
Yeah, it's in San Diego. Sorry, this is in San Diego. Obviously, a very dangerous job, and fair play to them. I'm not taking anything against that. I'm just saying it's a lot of money. Someone's getting paid 250,000 for potentially something that you don't have to go 7-8 years of studying and 10 years of experience to get to, right? It's a lot of money. So in California, where a lot of tech companies are based, you're paying a lot for these sales reps and marketing teams and developers and all that. So the price point is paying for how ludicrous the salaries are in America. Again,
exactly, yeah.
Don't go.
Salaries in the tech sector are triple what they would be in the UK.
More than that, almost 5x probably.
Wow.
It's insane. So yeah, just don't go American software. I don't want to. Sorry for Americans and listening. That I'm sure there are some really good price point software that are at a good price point, but there are these ridiculous $800 a month just marketing machines. So don't fall for that. Channel Max, really good. Channel Max is great.
And what about PPP?
I haven't used that for 3-4 years. Obviously, there's a conflict of interest a little bit because Natalie built that with Matt, or helped build it, but she hasn't been in the company. She hasn't been in the company for 2-3 years. So how's PPP compared to Channel Max? Well, the biggest flaw of PPP, well, I don't use it, any big seller won't use it, is because there's no API connection. So if you ever want to build a custom integration, you couldn't be able to do it. So the thing with PPP is it's a sort of like they sell a kit, right? So they want you to use Buybot Pro, and then they want you to use PPP, and it's all like a nice little integration, and it's like a bit of a monopoly on there. You go for one.
The Apple ecosystem, yeah.
They're going for the Apple ecosystem, right? So if you want to create your own custom software or your custom kit, it's hard to integrate with them. So that's my problem. But I know people use it. I haven't actually heard much from. To be honest, I don't hear they're not on Amazon or anything anymore. I think they've moved on to ChatGPT, right? That's what they're sort of selling nowadays. So then the main marketers for PPP are now moved on to the next thing. So ChatGPT, right? So I don't know.
No, I've not used it for many years either, so I couldn't.
I haven't heard anything either. Have you heard much? I'm not sure.
No.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Not sure. So I can't say. It's a very good price point now, I believe. So it's worth the try.
Price point, especially when you factor it in with all the other software.
Yeah,
I think it's good.
Yeah. Cool. So yeah, again, I think FTP is interesting. Aside from Channel Max, Channel Max is recommended. Yeah, Channel Max is cool. It's you can customize it a lot. it's got a lot of settings. It feels quite raw when you use it, if that makes sense. As in, like, it's not the best UI, but it's like 8 to 10 years old. Their UI, so the user interface isn't the best in the world. But it's a very cool software with a lot of customizations, and again, it's real-time repricing, which is what you need. So I think it's got everything you need. I know you use a different one, which works for you.
We use one called Logic Sale. It's been around for many years. It's done us very well, so we just kind of stuck with that, and the team know that. So yeah, that's what we use.
Yeah.
It just pulls. It does all the things that Channelmax does. The overnight repricing, pulls all the information, API and stuff. So yeah, I don't actually do a lot of the repricing, so it's not something that I'm not into. I know you're much more analytical and you're much more into that.
I don't operate the repricing, but well, sometimes, but I do more the algorithm behind it. So I'm doing the programming, because we have a complex system where we're doing minimum order quantities, merchant fulfilled, seller fulfilled, prime, FBA, and every ASIN might have 20 different ASINs, so we have to build quite a custom setting. I like the metric. I've talked about this before. It's called days left. So how many days left in your warehouse is it? So, or how many days has that been sitting in your warehouse? And because I sell grocery, I need to go more aggressive if things don't sell, because otherwise they just go to clearance, and then I lose half the value, right? So for me, it's very important with repricing to get more aggressive if the listing gets too old, because I don't want things to expire. I want to turn around that stock very, very quickly. It's groceries. So for me, it's a bit different. Yeah. So someone says,
it's important to note though that I think with any repricer, it's not hands off. It's not forgive and forget. You just list it and it'll do it all for you. There is a certain amount of tinkering and tweaking and adjusting things all the time. It's not quite as simple as just setting the repricer. I mean, it will work to a certain extent, but it's only going to work within a set range, and that set range might not be right.
Yeah, precisely. It's an interesting one. It used to be more debated in the channels, but from what I see, I don't see it much anymore, to be honest. Don't know if your Facebook algorithm has changed, but I haven't really. It used to always be Seller Toolkit, PPP, and it was just those two competing against each other. But I haven't heard much from either. But I've heard really good things about SDK Repricer, to be fair to them. So, and if Norman says they're real time, then that could be a good option to test as well. So, who knows? Like, it's Channelmax is really good.
We should name this episode about repricing, shouldn't we?
To be fair, we went in and we like to talk about hot topics. And I think this is an interesting topic because I think everyone wants to know about repricing. I've made a big change the last few days. If you didn't catch, I've basically changed my buy box percentage algorithm. So if I've never won the buy box, I will go more aggressive on my repricing, essentially. So that's what I've changed in my business, and so far my sales are pretty incredible. Again, it could be just a placebo, but we'll have to give a few more weeks.
I'm still waiting for someone to bring a decent eBay one out. I know why it's never been done because there's too many variables, but I still would like somebody to build a decent eBay repricer. That would be good.
Well, you're not competing against anyone
within your own parameters.
The problem is, so there is you can reprice with eBay, but there's no competition, right? You're on your own listing.
I don't like competition either.
So,
how do you may have a comparable offer in the product is the same, but you could be offering next day shipping and they're not. So that's not a comparable offer. So it shouldn't be sold at the same price.
Yeah. Well, I've essentially built a very basic repricer for Shopify. I'm sure you could probably do a very similar thing for eBay. But if people who know, I have my own grocery online shop. If you've ever looked for groceries, I'm sure you found it because it's getting quite big now with the Trustpilot reviews, and starting to get, we do bulk sell and stuff like that. But a little secret is our special offers are usually the slow sellers in our warehouse, to be honest. It's something that we're not going to put a special offer for no reason. We put the special offer because it's been sitting there for too long and we want to shift it. So we reprice every month automatically on the first to change our margins down from 75. Our markup down from 75% on Shopify to 15-20%. And we do that automatically based off an algorithm and reprice on the first, and then we also put it into special offers automatically as well. So it's easy. I think it'd be okay on eBay to do a similar sort of thing based off your own metrics. So if something is sitting in your warehouse, and on eBay you have a margin of 20%, but it's been sitting there for the last 6 months not moving, you might automatically reduce the price every time it reaches the amount of days in the warehouse. So for instance, a realistic one would be something like 60 days no sales in your warehouse, or 30 days no sales in your warehouse. You'll drop the margin from 25% to 20%, and you might just keep incrementing, slowly decreasing that on eBay. I think something like that would be quite easy to pull off using an eBay API. But I imagine if you're going to build a reprice or need a reprice for eBay, that would be the approach I would take. I would do a usual Limworks variables, or somehow build something using their API, Limworks API, and then eBay's API. Pull in the warehouse data of your products, and then somehow push the price to eBay if something isn't sold very well. A very basic one. So it's not.
I'll sign you up for that project then, yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is what we did. This is what we did for FBM, right? And competitors are probably listening right now, potentially. Paul, no. But with minimum order quantity, you don't usually have competition, right? So with if you have an MOQ of 6, right, on Amazon, your price is a lot lower than everyone else, and 90% of the time you're going to have no competitors in your range. So how do you actually reprice, like using a repricer? Right, because most reprices are like match FBA, match lowest price, match lowest MFN. Beat by 1 pence, increase by 1 pence, lower by a percentage based off competition, right? So you then have to build a sales velocity repricer. Actually, to be fair, some repricers do have that, but that's what we've built. The majority of our min and max manipulation is based off that, and it's really geared up to our business. So when we have no competitors, we can reprice based off velocity. So if you ever see me on a listing, sometimes you'll see the price graph go like down, because it's dropping by like a penny every day or something, just to try and get a price. It'll get a sale, and then it will probably stay still. And then when the days drop, so say I have a few days left in the warehouse, you'll see it go up. So another thing with a repricer, of course, reprice higher if you only have FBA, right? So with FBA, imagine another really good tip is imagine with FBA, you have stock that has a few days left FBA, but you have nothing on order. It's out of stock from supplier. You sell this in the next 2 days. That's it. You won't be able to sell it anymore. So what do? You want to increase that margin, right, and try and get more out of that by increasing that by 5-10% or whatever you can. But it all adds up. So stuff like that is what's really key. Is okay. Every time FBA listings drop below 7 days is left at the FBA warehouse, let's increase the price by 5%. And let's try and get a little bit more margin. And these are actually the sort of things that just at the end of the day, when you get to our sort of turnover, this sort of half a percentage point or a percentage point increase in margin,
difference.
It's the difference. It really is, and that's our salary as a director. That 1% is probably our salary, like take home, that we'd be happy with. So it's little things like that.
Really. Yeah, like I renegotiated some card fees a few years ago, and we got them down by 1%. Now you think it's 1%, it's 20 grand profit on 2 million turnover, 20 grand net profit increase by negotiating 1% difference. So it can really make a big difference in big volumes.
Absolutely. And it's all little gains, isn't it? It's all little intricacies, like someone said, you know, slightly increasing your margin to hopefully get the competitor to slightly increase their price. And it's all game theory at the end of the day. You know, you're playing chess, as some might say, you know, trying to move your piece so someone will follow, and then drop the price down to win the buy box percentage more. And it's always trying to get that right. And it's an edge if you get it right. If you get it, and I think sometimes custom algorithms are sometimes it's going to give you that edge. But saying that, we're talking like big turnovers and little percentages, but again, it does add up. Another question by Ben.
Yeah.
So, Miss
Yeah,
Hartford.
missed off the topic on this, but would you guys see any point in pricing strategy for fully private label products or just arbitrage products on the whole, where you're competing against multiple sellers? My take on that is I think that for a private label product, assuming your product is competitively priced against the market, it's going to be more about advertising than repricing. The pricing point is going to be about comparable offers, which a repricer is not going to be able to work out.
Yeah. So it's repricing, but on a much slower scale. Like I said, with my Shopify store, which is essentially private label, because there's no, well, it's not essentially, but there's no competitor. I will decrease my price depending on sales velocity. So I would recommend potentially a sales velocity repricer. If you have a lot of private label products, it'd be worth implementing that just to save time. But if you only have a few private label, I'd probably just do it manually. Yeah, of course, like Matt said, there's other things by potentially just increasing your PPC spend, right? Rather than lowering the price, you might want to increase the PPP spend, and then potentially get more sales that way. Again, it's not my market, but yeah, sales velocity sort of thing works. But I think you'll find that price point, and then you'll know.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, that's it. And it's kind of, again, I think comparable offers is something that people really overlook. You've got to see things as the customer sees them. Go find your offer incognito, see what is also coming up in a search, see what Amazon's suggesting as customers may also like. If their offers are more competitive than yours, then you're potentially driving traffic to their listings because they're coming onto your listing through your PPC and seeing a better offer and going to their listing to purchase. So what you could actually find is that if you're not competitive against the market, you're actually spending money on other people's promotion.
Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. I know PPC is obviously the buy. You only pay if you're in the buy box. But yeah, it's different. It's different. There's also external traffic as well for private label to Amazon and all that sort of thing. So what we actually going to talk about today?
40 minutes of repricing, and then we're going to talk about Amazon. Yeah,
that's exciting stuff. Yeah,
I know, totally. Yeah, no, I like it. I think the topic for today was actually about FBA, and kind of seeing what people have been finding and thinking about FBA. And there's been a lot of problems and challenges with FBA in recent times, and I think it's fair to say. And I think what my point today is has the love affair with FBA gone? Obviously, people are still using FBA, and it's not like it's not a viable service. But have people fallen out of love with it? To me, it seems that in recent times it's become very, very frustrating and very, very difficult to deal with, to the point where I had a conversation with a management team yesterday where we were discussing, are we going to stop doing FBA? Because obviously we wouldn't in Europe because we can't film you, but in the UK, the amount of problems and challenges that we're having, is it actually worth it? Especially with the recent fee increases that have gone up in, was it April? They implemented the recent fee increases. Yep. It's now not as competitive as it used to be. So is it really something that we are going to love, essentially, I guess?
Yeah, I think absolutely. I think it's still the most passive model of an Amazon business. It's something we should never throw away. And I think for us, and if you're having that conversation with your warehouse team or your management, at the end of the day, it's a space thing, isn't it? So if you were to How many units do you know if you have at FBA? I know you sell high value goods, but do you have any idea?
No, I don't actually know. It's a lot. It's a lot of space.
Yeah. So we have our warehouse has about, when we get to about 25,000, 20 to 25,000 units. So this is units, by the way, not Amazon SKUs. So this could be potentially with bundles and stuff, a lot less, but about 25,000 individual products at our warehouse, and that's when it's sort of at its peak. And at Amazon we have maybe 10,000 or more ASINs, which could be again multi-packs, bundles, and all that. So we probably have 50%, 50% of FBA and 50% in our warehouse. So if we were to stop FBA, how would we scale that and reach that revenue target? Like we spoke this before, it's like you get to, when you have your own warehouse, you have a revenue cap that you need to reach to actually make money to cover your overheads and your fixed costs. So it's a question of like, do you want a bigger warehouse? Like at the end of the day, I know you're up north. It's cheaper, and it's not a north joke. It's actually it's a compliment. It's cheaper up north to get warehouse space, but is that worth the hassle of potentially having to copy and paste your operations, get another warehouse team leader, get more staff, more bills, when you could just send it into FBA, which is in my head, in my thoughts, more scalable?
Yeah, this is the conversation we were having there. So we've got about 15,000 pieces in FBA at the moment, so that's going to be quite a lot of space. Rent's obviously considerably cheaper where I am than where you are, so that I don't think the storage space is potentially an issue for us, and actually it might justify the expenditure of having a bigger storage, might justify having a bigger warehouse for a bigger team, because another problem we're having is we're running out of space for people. We have two sort of like medium-sized units, but we're running out of sort of working space to grow the team. We've recently added a second floor office on, and that's already full. We think we need another potentially 3 people this year for the volume we're doing. There's nowhere for them to actually go realistically, so we're having to move stuff out of the warehouse into another warehouse to therefore make working space. That was part of the conversation we were having. But my main thing, I think, is the frustrations with seller support. And I think it's becoming to a point now. It was a joke at first. It was almost a joke. It was you have to deal with Amazon, you have to deal with seller support. But it's got so bad. I genuinely think it's got so bad. It's now becoming actually difficult to do business in FBA in some elements. Things that should be simple. We had a major issue at the start of the year with transparency codes, whereby Amazon marked nearly 100 grand's worth of inventory as defective because they didn't bother to open the case packs and see that there was transparency codes on the product. It took us weeks to get that resolved. That cost the business a lot of money. We're having issues, obviously, where there's always lost inventory. I understand with an operation the size of Amazon, stuff's going to get lost and broken, but it seems to be a real battle now to get that sorted. You shouldn't have to send 12 messages back and to seller support for them to just refund a £50 unit that they've lost. I don't know what your experiences are. Anyone in the comments, let us know how you're finding this. This I think was where my kind of frustration came out of, is it's become so difficult to deal with seller support that actually I'm considering pulling FBA.
Yeah, so I'll start with seller support, and then I'll get back to the FBA, and I have another question for you on that. But on seller support, have you just tried sort of bypassing seller support and just going direct to the managing director or seller performance? To be honest, when we get feedback removed now, we don't even click that button to appeal it. So back in the day, you'd be able to automatically remove it, and that majority happens most of the time for FBA. But when it's your own product or merchant fulfilled, you then have to appeal that case to seller support. So we've completely cut that step out now. We don't so we don't even appeal it anymore through seller support. if it's not automatically removed, the first thing we do will be send an email to managing director at amazon.co.uk, and then put an FAO to the sort of seller performance team or whichever team you want to contact, and then send a direct email to that to get the feedback removed or shipment reconciled or whatever you need, or shipment reimbursements. It doesn't matter, but you should go. And I'm sure other sellers can start doing this more, but they need a better system, because it's like you said, it's useless speaking to seller support because they don't know anything. Like, why is management, the managing director, the actual more senior people, have a completely different decisions to seller support? Like,
Yeah.
and they're not even listening, or they don't have any sort of rules or rule sets they go by. They just sort of say no and send an automatic email saying no. So seller feedback, 80% we get removed by emailing managing director, because they'll be like, "Yeah, that's a product review. We're going to remove that." Or the product was late because of X reason. We're going to remove that. But they won't. Let's just go for seller support, they won't go through any logic in their head. They will just say no and send you automated emails. Managing director, at least you get someone reading and a human replying. So that's the question to you. Are you bypassing seller support? Why not just go direct to the source?
Yeah. Generally speaking, we're not. We are dealing with seller support first. So obviously, if we don't get the response we need, we will always escalate it. But generally, we've been dealing with seller support first of all. But again, that's this frustration, because you know that they're not going to answer your question, and they're going to send you back a link to a help page which isn't even relevant to your issue. So maybe you're right. Maybe we just go straight to managing director. And maybe we advise other sellers to do that, because hopefully if Amazon managing director can keep getting bombarded with emails about basic queries, maybe there's a conversation in Amazon that will happen and go, clearly we're falling down on seller support because sellers are feeling the need to contact the MD over basic issues. We need to sort this out. Maybe that's the only way for sellers to actually get seller support improved, is by if everybody emailed everything to the MD team. Then maybe they'd actually look at it and go, why are we getting 10,000 emails a day? Clearly, the seller support system is not good enough.
Yeah. So I'm just going to put this on. I thought you could only contact the MD address and a limited number of times before they started to block or ignore you. We probably should preface this. This is based off anecdotal experience. There's no rule set saying you can only email managing director at amazon.co.uk a limited amount of time. There's no rule set that says you email too much, they will block or ignore you.
That probably comes from people emailing the same email about the same subject and expecting a different response.
Yeah.
So if you've got I don't know, let's say you've got a suspension issue and you keep emailing the same email 10 times, then they probably are going to ignore you, in the same as any other human being would if somebody kept spamming your inbox, without even rephrasing it. As for general different conversation, there's no reason why you can't email them multiple times.
Yeah. So I think a fresh email usually gets a response. I think if you, like you said, keep going back to the same reply of that email, they might ignore that or just delete it or block it or something, like, or archive it or something. But they might be just one response done. But again, there's nothing written down that says they have any rule set to ignore you. So why not leverage that? I guess we can't recommend it. Like, there's nothing to say that they will or that they won't. It's working for me really, really well. I don't deal with sales support. I just don't want to deal with them. I go straight to managing director.
I'll deal with them anymore.
Yeah, if it's got negative effects on me, I definitely let everyone know. But again, there's nothing that says that. So give it a try. I think it's managing director at amazon.co.uk. Could try to sell I think seller performance one is for if you want to
more for account issues rather than like inventory issues and things like that.
Yeah. They basically need to sort that out because they're just getting emails. It doesn't make sense. Like, the seller support team need clearer guidelines because they don't follow their own guidelines sometimes. And I have to say, I don't actually have to say anything, by the way. I just copy and paste into ChatGPT, and then they will reply. But I didn't have to copy and paste their response into. It's a lot of copying and pasting that I just don't want to do.
Yeah.
That's why Auto GPT be so good.
Yeah.
I
That's
taught it
probably, to be fair, that's probably what Amazon's actually using. I don't think frontline seller support is actually people.
Could be some algorithm probably based off keywords, right? That they, or it's 100% based off an algorithm based off keywords that you say, and then they just automatically run it through some of their, APIs and some of their code and scripts, and then give you the result. I guess if there's no answer or there's a problematic keyword, they just give the default rejection template. And then, that way they hopefully maybe it's worth it for people to go to managing director because they minimize a lot of the, potentially they don't have to refund people because people don't know that,
Yeah.
There's another question, potentially do it on purpose because they'll be like, oh, people won't know to go through to this email. They're just going to deal with that £5 loss because it could be a smaller seller and they're like, oh, whatever, £5. Or a bigger seller, it could be like £5. Well, I'm not going to bother with this. Oh, that's really annoying that happened. Lost £5 today. And then they just don't bother to even, chase that up. So maybe that's their plan, but they need to change it for sure.
Yeah, because I mean, we've been guilty of not chasing as many refunds as we should. If it's £5, we probably won't chase it. But why should we lose £5 on an item because of Amazon's fault and then continually lose this money? It adds up over the space of the year. So yeah, I think we need to be potentially more aggressive, and that would be. But dealing with seller support is so difficult; it's not worth dealing with £5 sometimes. Is what we found.
Yeah. I think sometimes it's good using one of these refund companies. Unfortunately, I can't recommend anyone because every single one I've had, I've just not enjoyed the experience, or they've ripped me off.
Yeah.
I'm not going to mention names actually, but it'd be nice if there was like a UK refund agent. If anyone knows actually of a, because I have a pretty good refund system down that I've built myself.
Mm-hmm.
I would also like to check against that, right? So if anyone knows a UK refund like agency management sort of thing, not SDK, but like a one who does like a proper audit of your account to check for refunds. So there's a few in America, like I can't remember what they're called, but like Scott and Needham used to have one, like Valorance, and they sold it to someone else. But if anyone has recommendations of like someone who will audit your account and then look for refunds that is UK based, let me know. And if you can't let me know, then there's a business opportunity. Simple as that, by the way. That's how businesses come, because I would ask this question. Someone like myself, I want to pay 15 to 20% for a UK audit company that will check for all refunds. If there's nothing UK based, I will start that business in a year. I don't have time right now.
I'll join you on that one. I could do it.
Yeah, maybe we'll start one in a year. But yeah, if anyone has recommendations, then please let us know. All right, so let's go again. How do you keep track of things that go missing?
That was another frustration of FBA for me.
Yeah, so it's the ledger report.
Yes.
It's the ledger report, and then you can check against your own orders, and you check against the reimbursement reports, check against the refund reports. You also want to check about FBA customer returns, which is like 45 days or more. That's the basics without looking at the actual scripts. But again, there's some good software. Like again, Seller Toolkit has a good reimbursement toolkit. Sellable's not that good. SDK's got a pretty good one from what I hear. They seem to be that sort of their main sort of focus. B-Stock at some point will have something. Again, that's in the works. But again, it's not available to people who are not in the hive. So wait for B-Stock. Seller Toolkit, again, pretty cool kit. I know they're competitors, but I've heard they've got an okay basic sort of refund thing, which gets a lot. I know that the owner is very stubborn on that. Apart from that, I don't know. You use something as well, right?
Yeah, so our Logic Cell's got a similar one, but so there's certain things that these softwares do really well. So the customer reimbursement tracking is usually pretty good, and the lost inventory in Amazon warehouse, most softwares do very well. Those are pretty easy to track. There seems to be a bit of a black hole in most software though. For example, I did an audit this morning based on someone's comment in the group. Now, what I found was when you download your FBA customer returns report and you match that against your ledger report, it doesn't always match. So customers are returning products to the warehouse, they're having refunds, but this return product is not being credited to the account. And I found 12 items that were returned to a warehouse, but were not credited to my inventory ledger. So I've raised the case on that and I've been refunded for them. But that would have been £1,000 worth of stuff that had just disappeared off the face of the earth, and no software I'd used had tracked that. I kept account of that because, to all intents and purposes, the refunded product was in Amazon, but it was only when you cross-referenced it against the ledger report and cross-referenced the days that there was discrepancies of pieces of inventory that had not been added back onto my unfulfillable inventory.
Yeah.
So there's certain things. The software will probably pick up, I reckon, about 75% of the claim. So obviously, by using software, you are much better off than you are not. But I think there still needs to be a manual element to it. Maybe it doesn't need to be a regular. If you do learn how to do the reports yourself and cross-reference it, spend a day every month or maybe a couple of months, because you can claim back to 18 months. And again, it won't be masses of inventory. And I don't think Amazon is genuinely doing this to defraud customers or sellers. I think it's just Amazon is so big, and our sellers often sell a lot of inventory. We sell like 3,000 or 4,000 pieces a month. So 12 and 3,000 a month, and this was in the space of a year. So yes, it isn't a lot of inventory in terms of numbers, but it was quite a lot of value for me. It's £1,000 profit I've just made by picking up on these issues, or sorry, £1,000 loss that I've avoided, however you want to look at it. So there's a certain element to the manual nature, and I think having either your VA do it or you do it yourself every now and again, just look through your reports, audit your reports, and make sure that everything that's said it's been returned has either been returned or has been refunded.
Yeah, no, precisely. So yeah, there is a tool, by the way, that is really good. Just to go on from this, it's called the it's a bulk tool where you enter the transaction IDs, and you can enter up to 25 transaction IDs at a time. It's look up reimbursement status of fulfillment center damaged issue. It's a Seller Central tool, but we basically pick up the transaction IDs that need looking at. We automate that every Thursday, and we put that in like 25 transaction IDs there. So that's a really nice tool. Matt, we're getting close to an hour, so I know we've done 40 minutes for Repricing, but I think that's been good. I'm kind of finally ask, so do you have any plans if you did quit FBA? How would you still maintain that Prime badge, which that beautiful?
We've absolutely self-fill Prime. There's no other way. We couldn't drop the Prime. Again, another thing that's particularly prevalent in my business, it might not be so prevalent in yours, is the amount of customer returns we're getting at the moment seems to have significantly increased. Now, part of this is no doubt due to cost of living crisis, people returning Christmas presents and stuff. But when you do merchant fulfilled, you've got a bit more leniency to say no, whereas Amazon will just accept every return because it's your money. And also because we sell technology products, I think there's a lot of support options that we could provide customers that are being missed, because Amazon's default policy is just give them a refund, because that's all the seller support can do. If there's a problem with a product, all they can do is give the customer a refund. Something's missing, we could fix that problem ourselves much more cheaply and cost effectively. So that was part of the decision making process as well. But the only way we were able to do it would be to scale our business and do a lot more. Obviously do seller fulfilled Prime. But one of the advantages of this would be turnaround time. I know Amazon's pretty good at receiving at the moment, but we're noticing a lot of inventory is going into transfers for quite a long time. So we could potentially avoid a lot of that and get a lot more stuff out the door a lot more quickly.
Yeah, self-fulfilled Prime is a golden nugget if you can get that working. Yeah, it could be a good opportunity for you. Yeah. Give it a try. Right. So I think we have one last question, then we're going to call it. I've noticed lately that Amazon will issue refund for items that were shipped over 30 days ago. That will issue a refund for items that were shipped over 30 days ago. Is this something? Can you please explain how the return policy works? It depends on the category. Grocery, grocery you can't return, so that's why grocery is always a good beginner one, I'd say. I know of electronics and stuff, there's usually a warranty, right?
2 years on FBA.
2 years.
Again, this is another thing. Amazon FBA warranty for 2 years, even though standard manufacturers 1 year. So it's a bit of a grey area with technology and returns, because the law stipulates it should be warranted for a reasonable time, and what is reasonable isn't open to interpretation. So yeah, it's a bit of a grey area, but yeah, it can be up to 2 years in electronics.
Yeah. So what might happen is it's 30 days is the actual official one, but you might have a buyer who spoke to a customer service representative on live chat on Amazon, said, "Oh, this was faulty or didn't arrive or XXX happened," and they could have like charmed them into giving a refund anyway, even though it's past 30 days, because again, customer first, and if it seems like a valid reason or they hit that keyword that they're looking for. No, I mean, I think it's a human actually. It's not ChatGPT talking back, that they will usually refund you. They're very good for the customer for that, so that could potentially why it doesn't happen too much. It's one of those things. Again, you got to track your refund percentage. That's a big factor. We always, in grocery, is always 1 to 2%. It's never changed in 4 or 5 years. So always at 0 to 2% pretty much. So again, you got to work it into your margins, right, Matt?
I'll be honest, our refund percentage can be as high as 10%.
Yeah, but your margins are very good. So
we have good margins to compensate for that, and also of that 8 to 9% is resold anyway. Usually, sometimes, and most of the time, the profit. Even as a reuse like new item. So a lot of that is resold anyway. So yeah, but the 30 days also, just to clarify, 30 days the customer can return something on Amazon. It's 30 days from when they receive it, not from when it's shipped. So if a customer orders it to like a locker and doesn't pick it up for 2 weeks, that 30 days only starts when they actually get the goods. So it's not when you ship it. Just to clarify that little point. And that's only for unwanted items, and like you say, Amazon's probably going to waive that most of the time anyway. If the customer's like 35 days and they want to return it, Amazon will probably just say yes and allow the customer to return that item.
Yep, precisely. All right, well, that's it. That's the hour. I hope everyone enjoyed. Please subscribe. Tune in next week. Matt, that was a good one. You enjoyed that?
Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah. Natalie's got a really good one next week. Is it next week or is it the week after? It's next week, isn't it?
Yeah, some tech AI stuff coming.
Next week talking about AI. So that is one you do not want to miss. That's going to be a really, really good one. So as always, me and Jonny are in the group. Please like, comment, ask any questions, and we'll see you all next week.
Yep. Cheers, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.